Is rosemary oil the key to hair growth? I'm a board certified dermatologist, and in today's video, we're gonna find out. Plus, I'm going to review for you all the TikTok famous Mielle Rosemary Mint Scalp and Hair Strengthening Oil. Rosemary oil for hair growth is a highly searched topic right now. Rosemary is a medicinal plant that's chock full of a variety of compounds that are antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, and have antimicrobial effects. The antioxidants in rosemary oil may help ward off oxidative stress that weakens the hair follicle. One area of interest when it comes to the compounds in rosemary oil is that certain aspects of it may help in relaxing the blood vessels, allowing for improved blood flow to the scalp and to the hair follicle. Now, this is important because it's going to bring in nutrients and growth factors that can help with the health of the hair follicle, and ultimately that's going to support healthy hair growth if it works. Furthermore, rosemary oil is a natural source of the compound camphor, which is something that actually can lead to increased blood flow when applied to the skin. If you've ever applied Vicks Vapo Rub to your skin or Tiger Balm, you know, it kind of gets a sensation of warmth, tingling. That's because of the hyperemic or enhanced blood flow effects of camphor. Of course, camphor can be irritating and is a relatively common allergen, as a word of warning. Rosemary oil is also nourishing and conditioning, so it can help the hair appear and feel softer, smoother, shinier, and glossier. But does rosemary oil actually work to promote hair growth? We have very limited research to actually answer that question. There was a small study done on 100 men. They took 50 of these men and they had them apply rosemary oil to the scalp twice a day. The other 50 men, they had instead apply the medication Minoxidil 2% to the scalp twice a day. And at the end of the study, both groups showed an improvement in the hair count. Although both did develop side effects of dryness, irritation, the rosemary oil group overall had less itch in comparison to the Minoxidil group. This study isn't like the most robust thing on the planet. It has limitations. If you're not familiar, Minoxidil is an FDA-approved treatment for androgenetic alopecia. It comes in 2% strength and 5% strength. When it comes to treating men with androgenetic alopecia, 5% Minoxidil is superior to 2%. 2% can be pretty weak and ineffective in many people. So I would have much rather seen this study compare rosemary oil to 5% Minoxidil in these men. The other issue here is they're only looking out to 6 months, and they don't take into account that in the beginning, when you are starting Minoxidil, you tend to have more hair shedding. That's because Minoxidil is reorienting the hair cycle around, so they didn't really account for that period of increased shedding. So you might see that with time, the 2% Minoxidil group, maybe it actually outdoes rosemary oil, and they simply didn't look long enough. What type of rosemary oil did they use? They took rosemary oil and they standardized it to have at least 3.7 milligrams of 1,8-cineol per ml. That's important because, you know, you might go out and buy a product with rosemary oil in it and you have no idea to what extent you're getting these compounds that allegedly have benefit for the scalp. So something to keep in mind. I'm not saying that rosemary oil that you buy in a hair care product would be completely useless, but it's not standardized in terms of this concentration, so you may be getting a very low amount. So if you are interested in pursuing rosemary oil for hair growth, I would tell you this: the research to support rosemary oil for hair growth is pretty limited. Is there any harm to using rosemary oil? The biggest risk to using rosemary oil to your scalp is going to be scalp irritation, a contact dermatitis developing. Of course, you can develop irritation, contact dermatitis to any ingredient that you use on the scalp, including the stuff that we know works, Minoxidil. That's one of the most common side effects. Overall, rosemary oil might actually be less irritating than Minoxidil, but it's still a risk and something to bear in mind. And in my opinion, it's more of a risk if you just go to your health food store and pick up rosemary essential oil and attempt to dilute it yourself. I think you are more likely to run into problems. But what else is in this besides the popular rosemary oil? It also has tea tree oil in it. Now, tea tree oil is another essential oil that has a variety of compounds in it that likewise are antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and are antioxidants. Tea tree oil has actually been looked at in hair loss. There is actually a small study looking at tea tree oil for hair loss. However, it's a study that doesn't just look at tea tree oil by itself. It combines it with Minoxidil plus an anti-inflammatory called diclofenac. The tea tree oil microemulsion that they used had 5% Minoxidil, 5% tea tree oil, and 0.5% diclofenac, which is an anti-inflammatory. They compared that to 5% minoxidil and to placebo. This study showed that there was an increase in hair count, an increase in the weight of the hair, and an increase in hair thickness with the triple microemulsion that had tea tree oil, minoxidil, and diclofenac that was much greater than minoxidil alone. And certainly, obviously, a lot greater than placebo. Now, that may be because of the anti-inflammatory effects of either the tea tree oil or the diclofenac or some combination of the two. This isn't the first time we see synergy of a compound with minoxidil. You'll recall from my video yesterday on tretinoin and hair growth, tretinoin seems to exhibit synergy with minoxidil, and that some people respond a little bit better to minoxidil when used in conjunction with tretinoin. So this study kind of suggests that maybe formulating minoxidil in a microemulsion that has some of these compounds may get people better results, but more research is needed. Similar to rosemary oil, you certainly can become allergic to tea tree oil. It is a relatively common allergen, although not the most common. If you are allergic to fragrance, it can cross-react with that. The Mielle Rosemary Mint oil also has coconut oil. There is research supporting the use of coconut oil for improving hair strength. It's a good ingredient for reducing hygral fatigue and overall improving hair brittleness. So if you have hair that's prone to breakage, coconut oil can be a very beneficial ingredient. This also has castor oil in it. Now, castor oil is a very popular ingredient in hair care products. It's very moisturizing. Products such as this that are meant to likewise be applied to the scalp or can be applied to the scalp, the castor oil can be very moisturizing. However, it is a very viscous ingredient. There's no evidence that castor oil grows hair. There's no research-backed evidence that castor oil grows hair. It's merely anecdotal. Lots of anecdotes from people that they started using castor oil and it grew their hair, it grew their lashes. Like any other ingredient, the biggest risk with castor oil is going to be, again, contact dermatitis. And there are some reports of, probably because of its viscosity, overuse of castor oil in the hair leading to hair matting. So you want to be careful depending on your hair type, how much of it you're using. This also has jojoba seed oil in it, which can help put lipids onto the hair strands. That might likewise be beneficial for people who have brittle hair. You know, hair brittleness can occur as a result of bleaching the hair, color treating the hair, chemically processing the hair in any way, overuse of heat styling tools, and even just aggressive hair brushing can delipidate the hair strands, make them more prone to brittleness. Of course, with age, some of those lipid levels naturally decline, and the hair becomes more susceptible to brittleness overall. This also has biotin in it. Now, biotin is a B vitamin. A lot of people like to take biotin in those hair gummies, although as I pointed out before, there's no evidence that in the absence of biotin deficiency, taking a biotin supplement will help with hair growth. Now, biotin applied to the hair, it may help with brittleness, or it may have an anti-inflammatory effect when applied to the skin. More research is needed, though, to really say for sure what, if any, effect biotin has on hair growth when applied to the scalp. So now I've tried this product and here's what I have to say about it. It's a great option for people who have textured hair, a textured hair type, for either the scalp or the strands as a whole. The way to use it is just to section the hair into 4 sections, apply a few drops, massage it into the scalp, the entire scalp. Then if you want, take a comb and pass it through the hair to distribute the oil onto the hair strands. It can nicely coat the hair strands and really help cut down on brittleness, breakage, and it also can moisturize the scalp. So if you have a scalp that's prone to dryness, you may notice improvement with this product. Now, I have to warn you though, I see a lot of people on social media who have a hair type like mine or finer hair hyping this product up as a scalp treatment. And if you have hair like mine or a finer texture, I have to warn you, this is going to be very heavy if you put it here to your scalp. It's going to be very heavy on your hair strands. Using the most minuscule amount distributing it over the scalp, this was very heavy on my hair. For my hair type, it really weighed it down a lot. I mean, I was really conservative with how much. We're talking like the tiniest drop. You know, I see a lot of people on social media, a lot of influencers who have my hair type hyping this up. Now, to their credit, some of them do have color treated or chemically processed hair that maybe you know, reacts to this product much different. I do heat style my hair a couple of times a week, but I don't bleach it or dye it or anything of that sort. So that being said, you know, maybe they have a different result, but I am a bit suspicious that they can get away with putting this on their scalp as frequently as they claim, because man, it's tenacious, it's thick, and if you have hair like mine, it can really weigh it down. The way I found that this product would be most useful for me in my routine is just to the very ends. And again, a really conservative amount, because it very much, I mean, you really only need like the tiniest drop. And the next thing you know, it somehow magically coats all of the hairs. It's very viscous and it really does grab onto the hairs. So actually, I just put a tiny little drop in the palm of my hand and took my ends while they were damp, dragged a little bit, dragged my ends through the palm of my hand, massaged it in, took a comb to it. So doing it that way, the following morning, the ends of my hair had the feeling of freshly cut hair. You know, when the ends are all at the same level and they're all even, that's kind of the effect that product gave me doing it that way. But man, a little goes a long way, and using too much did make my ends feel very heavy. Almost look greasy, like there's something, like obviously there's something on the ends of the hair, but didn't feel greasy, okay? Now, the other thing I will point out about this product that's gonna be a good option for some of you. You know, some of you who have really textured hair, this is gonna be a beneficial property for you, is that the oil, it really coats the hair in an inclusive fashion and almost acts as a water repellent shield. So much so that, again, the tiniest amount for me, when I got in the shower after having it on my hair all day, I could see the water beating up off my hair. And I had trouble actually lathering it out. On the other hand though, moisture, humidity, it can really lead to a lot of frizz, especially in more textured hair types. I really think that this product actually definitely can be beneficial for those folks, because again, it kind of acts as like a water protectant shield against moisture. So I really think it does help the hair remain manageable, shiny, smooth, soft, supple, and free of frizz. It's really overall very good for, you know, a variety of indications. But I have to warn those of you out there who maybe have been influenced by influencers who have hair my type or finer telling you to go putting this on your scalp, because I think you will be disappointed. It takes a long time to end up washing it out. At least for me, it really did weigh it down too much. Had to wear my hair in a ponytail or a bun, because up here it was just like flat oil, and I really didn't use very much at all. If you have a dry scalp, you may be wondering, well, what else is there? You also need to evaluate things that trigger dry scalp. Are you using really hot water to shampoo your hair? That can aggravate scalp dryness. Are you using a lot of long hold styling products? Those can be very drying. Are you using too much shampoo? If you use too much shampoo, it ends up being difficult to rinse it out efficiently. You may have some shampoo residue left behind that's leading to scalp irritation. Do you have hard water? Consider a water softener. People who shampoo with hard water, it can really lead to disruption of the barrier function of the scalp. Or do you have a lot of scalp buildup from styling products that is leading to irritation, dryness, scalp itch? Consider incorporating a shampoo like a salicylic acid shampoo that can exfoliate the scalp, or a clarifying shampoo that will remove some of that buildup. So if you have scalp dryness, there are a few things that you can do to address scalp dryness. I will put a link in the description box to my video on dry scalp care. If you're using too much shampoo, one thing that's really helped me cut back on how much shampoo I've been using is a shampoo brush. I have this inexpensive shampoo brush you can get from Amazon, and I'm using so much less shampoo because it basically just helps me distribute the shampoo over all of my scalp. And so definitely try that out. because like I said, you might be just using too much shampoo and the residue is left behind irritating your scalp. The thing about oils is that they don't really reduce water loss that well. Castor oil is so viscous, it probably does, honestly, but it's very difficult for hair types like mine to deal with the castor oil on the hair because it's too viscous and it will weigh down your hair. Let me know in the comments though. I've seen a lot of comments from you guys that you've tried this, you feel as though it's helped your hair growth. That's fantastic. I can't speak to the ingredients actually leading to hair growth, but I do imagine that this formula, because it's moisturizing and can help with brittle hair, the ingredients can, that might help cut down on breakage, and it can really be a valuable tool for your hair care routine. I will point out though, as I do in all my videos with things like this that have essential oils, the biggest risk is going to be contact dermatitis. Some of these ingredients are fairly common allergens, like the tea tree oil, and rosemary oil is a possible contact allergen as well. The castor oil is another possible contact allergen. So that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it was informative. Now on the end slate, I'm going to link yesterday's video if you missed it, all about tretinoin for hair growth. So definitely check that one out. It's another one that's all a buzz over on TikTok. But if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.